Welcome everyone to Coach to You. I'm your host, Coach Regina, and I am back with another video. Today's topic will be triggering unwanted change. Today we will be discussing the dynamics of how do you feel when you are hit with sudden and unexpected change in your life. We will discuss the aspects of how it may be a force of human error, technical malfunctions, external influences, poor planning, and even things like relationship ending. Uh, Anyone that has experienced some form of change, and we all have in our life, you'll be able to get some little bits of tidbits of information to kind of help you navigate those complexities and gather some sense of normalcy. Okay, I want you to stay with me to the end and be sure to check out my other videos in the link and also watch those to the end. So before I get started, let me go ahead and give my disclaimer. Although I'm a student of psychology, I am not a licensed healthcare professional. All information and content on my channel stems from my own personal research and extensive informational topics. It's all for educational purposes only and should not be considered professional and medical advice. If you feel that you have a mental health condition, consult the advice of a professional mental health care. Okay, so let me jump in, you guys. I'll be raw on this thing, so I don't want to take any glitches out. I just like it to flow just as it is, okay? So again, stay with me to the end on this, okay? So triggering unwanted change essentially refers to occurrences of a modification, transformation, or shift that was not intended or planned. Like it literally just happened. Sometimes you can look at situations like natural disasters, a death, job loss, different things like that. But this concept can essentially be applied to various contexts, including organizational environments, personal relationships, even psychological states. Unwanted change may disrupt routines, processes, or expectations, potentially leading to confusion, inefficiency, or dissatisfaction. One aspect of complex PTSD that I'll share with you guys that I have experienced in my own life is unexpected change. If I move, and or get out of school, like let's say I'm currently in college right now, so we go out of school, let's say around maybe, let's say May, and we don't come back until like July, something like that, right? Then we have these long periods where we go from February to June, things like that. And I'm just throwing some dates out there just to kind of give you an understanding of how unexpected change can disrupt a sense of normalcy. For me, repetition is critical. Being able to have a balanced routine and keep that a schedule in my life helps me to maintain that sense of normalcy. Otherwise, when that disruption occurs, it can take about a month or so for me to kind of get back into the swing of things. And before, I didn't notice it. So I would go into these periods where maybe even go into a slump, because I wasn't aware that these changes were triggering inside of me this sense of balance that I had developed over such a long period of time. So, while you're listening to this, think of moments in your life where you may experience different things in your own life and it just triggered something in you where you recognize I was not ready for this. Natural disasters occur in life, we know that the seasons occur, but we're talking like natural disasters. We're literally talking about situations that were beyond your control and they just occurred and they shift things up. These particular things can occur, and if you're not, like, let's say, balanced, they can affect you in a way that can really disturb your sense of normal capacity, if you will. Human error, mistakes that are made by individuals, or miscommunication can also result in unintended changes. If you're a person that is really big on communication and getting an understanding, if you find yourself encountering people that just are not adept at being able to communicate themselves effectively, this can trigger an unwanted change in you. You're trying to get some sort of reason to understand, hey, what's going on here and why are we constantly having these difficulties with our sense of communicating with one another. Technical malfunctions. Things like hardware. I mean, I know for a certainty, like I told you, my podcast is uncut. So, I've had situations where I thought the volume was on my video and it wasn't working. That is considered a technical malfunction. And, people who are more savvy in this thing, they recognize that even it can happen to them as well. This could trigger unwanted changes that were not anticipated or even desired. Because what happens is when you spend time, making those videos and they end up not having any volume, and all of a sudden you're like, holy crap, you've lost your train of thought several times on this thing, and now you're having to try to re-record and things of that nature. Trust me, that is considered unwanted, right? External influences, things like market shifts. Like I mentioned earlier, natural disasters can force changes that individuals did not plan for. When we try to plan for everything, let's face it, it's hard to do that. Some things in life they can throw us off guard, and they will challenge our sense of resiliency in the matter. Okay? Poor planning, inadequate forecasting, or lack of contingency planning can lead to situations where change that may occur without proper preparation can also trigger and this sense of in like unease inside of you as well. Relationship ending. Now this can actually alter functionality, emotional states, or preconceived appearances unexpectedly, especially if you're someone that is really big on having a significant other on side of you, and you're having to go around individuals and they're questioning as to where this person is and things of that nature. Now you may feel this unwanted change, which triggers the need to try to explain yourself or, dummy down the situation because you just may be going through something at that moment. And relationships do tend to have their highs and lows, okay? Again, let's face it, change is inevitable. This means that life, society, and the natural world are in a constant state of flux, and things will never remain the same. It also emphasizes that while change is constant and often beyond our control, our response to it is not. And that's the key in this regard, okay? Being able to recognize how you are responding to situations and how it affects you on an emotional level. For a long time, my space being disrupted was a trigger for me. I like my own personal space. I like organization. I like structure. I like flow. I like calendars. I like, scheduling and things like that. Well, my partner, on the other hand, is not that way. They pretty much like to fly by night. They allow their situation to go as they desire, and they don't like, structure and calendar and things of that nature as well. So when you're tending to try to have your 9 to 5 routine, and where you're going to take a breakfast at 8 and a lunch at 12, and you're going to go and meditate at 2 o'clock, different things like that that can throw things off when you have this imbalance in your environment, okay? How do you respond to those situations? That's key. One of the things that has helped me is being able to understand that life is about change. And change essentially is necessary for us to be able to learn adaptability. Another thing is that how we perceive our change is also crucial to how the change ends up either affecting us on a short-term basis or a long-term basis. Keep in mind, when we talk about how you perceive it, it's your perception. It's basically how you are taking in the information at the given moment, right? Recognizing what areas that you may feel are afflicted, such as boundaries, thoughts, etc. Now, one thing you hear me talk about on my podcast is that thoughts are illusory, okay? They're essentially used by the ego to keep you trapped in a life that you no longer desire. So when I talk about how you respond to it, as soon as something is triggered on the inside of you regarding your unwanted change, as soon as you begin to have a thought that is negatively associated with that circumstance, it depends on how you reframe that situation at a given moment to determine how those thoughts go. If that doesn't occur, what tends to happen is thoughts begin to be connected to another thought, another thought, and then another thought, and essentially these thoughts begin to spiral until they create a mood. Now that mood is ultimately determining your reaction or response. Okay? Let's say you feel like your space is violated. That one thought. If you take in another a form of information, this always happens. Uh-oh, here's another one. This affects you. Here's another one. This person negates everything. Here's another one. They're causing this in my situation to, suffer, or whatever the case may be. The mind doesn't recognize whether or not that situation is happening right now or whether it happened 45 minutes ago. Once those thoughts become spiraling, it's a pattern that begins to happen, and it's hard to come back from it because what did not occur in the beginning, and that's what I mentioned earlier, was reframing. Rather than the situation going down this rabbit hole of your space being violated, you can look at it from the situation of, I really enjoy the fact that I have an opportunity to help others find themselves. I'm really glad that my kids love to be in my space. This makes me happy, and things like that. Just the thought alone, or the rephrasing alone, releases the tension in your body. Now, this is not easy, because one thing I come to recognize is that as soon as those thoughts come that are associated with a past experience, they begin to release cortisol in the body, and then the mind doesn't know if it's happening now or 45 minutes ago. Everything begins to come up from an emotional level or a physical level as though it's happening right now. Catching it is key. Okay? So that's one aspect of responding to it. Okay? Reframing the situation to such a degree that you can lessen the effects of how you are responding physiologically. Okay? Breathing. One aspect of recognizing how you respond or react to situation is the breath. Being able to recognize that you are safe. All is well. Things are working out well for me. I'll get through this. This is just a simple change. Things will go back to normal in its proper time. These are helpful in being able to regulate the breath, to take you from the fight or flight mode back to the calm and relaxed mode, when you are in a mindset that indicates that you are safe. Okay? Triggering unwanted change is common, okay, across many spheres. But understanding its causes and effects allows us to be able to adopt effective coping mechanisms and to develop growth mindset that becomes resilient during difficult times or disruption. When you understand that these things are temporary, I don't want to downplay any situation. We talked about human error. We talked about technical malfunctions. We talked about external influences, poor planning, and relationship ending. These may be important to us, okay? Also, death, the death of a loved one. There is a normalcy in needing to grieve when you lose someone, okay? So I don't want to downplay the aspect of, hey, this unwanted change is triggering something inside of me that I may need to deal with, okay? How you process your grief is different from how another person may process their grief. What I do encourage is long and drawn out grief periods can begin to affect the body on a physiological level that can be hard to come back from. And that's basically my encouragement in that regard, okay? Take time to grieve in a healthy manner. Take time to find areas of comfort that bring you some form of consolation to the loss of that person. That is something that is very helpful in any regard. For those of us that are in school and we find ourselves being where we go through disruptions in our classrooms, like I was just trying to put some dates together earlier, being able to recognize that I need to have something in the middle that I go to in order to help me find balance. And I think, like taking other online classes or courses that are, essential to my needs and my sense of growth mindset can also be helpful in that regard as well. Job loss. Finding areas where you recognize that I can grow and determine that maybe this is an opportunity for me to start my own business. That's about reframing as well, okay? Other preventative strategies that you can also consider are acknowledge your feelings, okay? Practice mindfulness and other mental health techniques that help to minimize disruption and foster resilience in the face of unexpected events. This is crucial because, like I was mentioning earlier, when you recognize that these things are a trigger for you, they don't have to come as such a shock and jolt to your psyche because you've dealt with them before. You recognize that, you know what, I'll get through this. This is something that I'm experiencing. It's temporary and it doesn't have to take me out of balance in a way that it used to, because I now have developed this resiliency to understand that I'll get through this as well. Okay? By proactively managing change, it is possible to reduce risk and maintain stability. And essentially, that's also what's key in this, is that I recognize that I'm the mountain, and how I perceive everything that's going on the inside of me is basically, it's critical to how these things develop in us. Okay, I know that if I can change the way I see things, I know that if I can respond differently from an emotional perspective, okay, I know that if I can reframe the situation, then I have an upper hand in not being able to allow this stuff to affect me, okay? How do you apply this though? First, I mentioned earlier, acknowledging your feelings, okay? As mentioned, it's normal to struggle with change, but take a moment to acknowledge your reaction before deciding on how to move forward. What are you feeling on the inside, okay? And this is where mindfulness comes in at, because being able to be aware of your physiological state at that time, it helps you to understand, okay, this is causing me to feel a stress. Breathe, take deep breaths, take a moment, bring yourself in. What's really critical, I found, is that bringing yourself back to the present moment is very, very, very helpful as well, because once you start to feel the stress levels, what I also noticed is that those stress levels tend to not be so adapt to what's happening right now, but they're trying to find areas that are familiar with something that has happened in the past. And I think that that is really key. If you can kind of go back and play moments where you've experienced unwanted change in your life and you felt the stress rise up, but pay attention to how you went down the rabbit hole of when this thing has occurred before. And in that regard, it magnified that emotional state in the current moment. Number two, look for opportunities. See challenges as chances to learn new skills or grow personally. Now, this requires some form of ambition, if you will. It requires some form of dedication and determination to be able to determine that, look, I want more out of life. And a 9 to 5 job was cool because it paid my bills, but at the end of the day, I want freedom. My intention is to live a life of freedom where I can be present with my children and offer something to humanity. And working that 9 to 5 job did bring a lot of stress and prevented me from working on my personal growth and self-development. You see how you reframe that, right? It's not that the situation is going to go away. It's not that you're not going to have bills that have to be paid and things that are going to come up. What I'm basically asking for you to do is look for opportunities that you can be able to challenge yourself in areas that you would not have actually done that, because the job was essentially acting as a crutch for that. Utilizing the job loss as a catalyst to help discover areas in your life that you were not challenging yourself before can be a fuel to help discover areas where you can do the things that you truly want to do. Number three, focus on growth. Intentionally seek out challenges and opportunities to push your boundaries, even if it's uncomfortable. Now, this is something that I pride myself on because I'm not going to lie, growth is important for me. And I have this philosophy in my mind that if you're not evolving, you're dying. So I'm always looking for areas of self-development and self-improvement and inner growth to determine how am I adapting to life, as well as how I am putting out an energy flow within my environment that fosters growth and resiliency. What I come to understand is that everything is essentially you flipped out. Your internal state and how you process information can affect everyone in your environment, just as well as how that your environment and those within it also can affect your own internal state as well. Recognizing the role you play, taking responsibility for your own internal state helps you to understand areas that I intend to grow in, focus in my own life. Okay? Let go of resistance. Now, this is also very, very crucial and something that I'm actually applying in my own life. Trying to find ease and flow instead of fighting against what is happening. When we look at our situation and we find ways to force it, whether it's a relationship ending and we're trying to find a way to force it where, hey, just come over here and be with me around my family. You don't have to say anything or whatever the case may be. Now you're around each other and you guys have gotten into an argument. What's the first thought going to come into your mind? Well, I shouldn't have resisted the fact that we needed space anyway. Think about it. You do it all the time. You got rolled up at your job and they've already been threatened that they was going to let you go. Resistance in not being able to see that I could have been looking for the place that I wanted to be all along, or I could have been challenging myself to develop the skills and that I wanted to use in the area that I truly desire to be, such as an entrepreneur, student, or whatever the case may be. Okay, whatever would you use to pay the bills. Okay. Lastly, consider the long term. Sometimes not changing can be the riskier option, as external factors may force change on you later. When you look at life from that perspective, that one there is pretty profound. Because what I like to tell my associates is that no one's getting away with anything. Okay, everyone has moments and times in their life, seasons, where they are called to change, grow, and evolve. If you have people in your life that want to stay stuck and they don't want to push through or grow in any different aspects of their life, what happens is, because you choose to stay around those people, that commingling of energies also affects your internal state as well. You can't see it because it's really subtle. Okay, where this person may live in a state of denialism. They have some type of sexual immorality, or like they cheat on their spouses, or these individuals are prone to taking things from other people, or going from job to job and different things like that, right? Well, these are the people that you call friends. These are the people that you call associates. Okay, because you are someone that may value friendships, you hold on to friendships 30 and 40 years without the awareness that these individuals also affect, again, your internal state. So these commingling of energies, is said to last anywhere from 2 to 24 hours after encountering them, where you and their heart rate, mindset, emotional state, mental paradigm is essentially affecting one another even after you have left their sphere of influence. And I'm going to tell you something. I've seen it happen in my own life. Okay? So refusing to change your relationships or grow beyond them when you know that the time has kind of extended itself, it's stated that from an external factor, it may force you to change later on in life, where you recognize now that you want to get married, this individual that cheats on their spouse no longer supports your relationship, and now this person and they're clashing. It's because these are things that were brought to you from the forefront, and you knew they were there, but you chose not to deal with them. This is how what we call the cyclic patterns cause us to be able to examine our life over a year span, when things keep coming up and we have an opportunity to address them, and we may or may not do so. We push them down, or we tuck them in the back corner and we say we'll deal with them later. Okay? In the end, guys, everyone has the ability to choose how they respond and react to unwanted change. Okay? No two people are going to deal with it the same. How I'm mentioning how you would deal with it may be different from how another person may deal with it. But here's something that is common for everyone. Stressing about change, worrying, fearful, dreading, resisting change is not beneficial for any type of lasting growth. However, recognizing that change is inevitable and I have the choice to choose my own internal state at any given moment is up to your choice. Okay? I want to make sure that I continue to offer information on this podcast that can help you grow in different areas of your life. And guess what? When you grow, I grow. Okay? And it's just a continuing thing. Again, I want to thank you guys for taking time to listen to my video. Check out my other podcasts. If you like the video, like it and subscribe to my other channels. Thank you guys.